everyone, it's Aaron with Hail Varsity. I'm joined by Greg, recruiting extraordinaire for Hail Varsity, and we are back for another week of the recruiting question of the week. Greg, let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
So this question comes from Facebook. It kind of leads into the topic we just talked about last week. Joshua wants to know how many in-state players that are highly touted play at Nebraska, or have been highly touted, play at Nebraska. He thought, there's about 2 to 3 that might be able to come for the 2022 class. But then wants to also know how many have left since Frost took over. So generally, we're just talking highly touted in-state players, what that's been like for Nebraska.
Okay. I think I like to try to qualify it with highly touted. That means different things to different people, but I'll try and stick to the parameters of his question. So going back to when Frost first got here, and really for his first full recruiting class, which was the 2019 class, the 2018 class did have a couple of guys that ended up leaving because Nebraska tried to flip them at the last minute. Bryson Williams, the defensive tackle, who's now at Wisconsin, was the big one there. Blast from the past. But then but 2019 was the year that they went 5 for 5. With all of the different scholarship players, that included Garrett Nelson and Nick Henrich, who you see playing and playing well on defense every week now, right?
Gosh, that Burke team in team was great.
Really,
2019,
really good.
Yeah,
that was a really, really good.
Or was it 2018? Because it led into the 2019
It was 2018 , yeah. Because
time means
the recruiting classes
nothing. If anyone watched Trev Alberts on his monthly radio show, he said something along the lines like "time is flying." I'm like, yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, I think that it was as we hit a new month, I felt that definitely. And so they did well in that 2019 class. And in 2020 is when it started to turn a little bit, where they landed Xavier Betts, but lost Xavier Watts to Notre Dame. And then the 2021 class also was kind of a mixed bag. And what has really made this a hot topic around Nebraska football is what's happening with the 2022 class. And essentially, all of the top players in the 2022 class that are in Nebraska are not coming to Nebraska unless something drastically changes, because they didn't even have Nebraska in their top groups when they made those groups. Now, each of them, outside of one right now, Devin Jackson, the outside linebacker at Omaha Burke, as we mentioned earlier, he's the only one that's uncommitted at this time, and he did release a top 3 here recently that included, I think it was Miami, Oregon, and Arizona State. Those are the 3 schools. Obviously, Nebraska not one of them, so he'll be announcing his decision soon. So all in all, it's been a mixed bag. Started off very hot for Nebraska on the recruiting trail in state, which I think is something that can be expected given the ties that the staff has to the state and how much fanfare there was around Scott Frost coming back. It's tapered off, and I think largely in part to the results that have been on the field. But then also, it's just a lot more competitive to keep these kids in state now, as you can see by the schools I just listed off that are recruiting Devin Jackson. They're from everywhere.
That's not a bad thing. To have schools outside of Nebraska coming into this state looking for talent says a lot about the talent pool that Nebraska is building itself, and that's great for everyone involved. We've talked about this a number of times, that the results on the field impact recruiting, and so that is inevitable right now, that Nebraska is just the football itself. These players are looking to see how they can be utilized in this game, in this system. They want to know, if I come here, how will I play? Who do I project to, look like?
Who's going to develop me? That sort of thing.
And when you have, unfortunately, the record that Nebraska does right now over the past 4 seasons, that does tend to maybe a player who may have looked at Nebraska previously is going, okay, maybe I'll go out of state now. But again, they're also getting a lot more eyeballs on them.
A lot more. And I think that it's actually tied to what we started off talking about. When you go back to that 2019 class with Hickman and Henrich and Garrett Nelson, Ethan Piper, and then Garrett Snodgrass, those guys brought a lot of attention to the state, right? And it actually started right before that with Cameron Jurgens in his class. He had he went and took that official visit to LSU. And so there are just a lot of schools from all over the country that are now firmly aware of the talent in this state, and that just makes it harder for Nebraska to keep them home. But it's great for the kids that they get more exposure, and then there's a trickle-down effect for their teammates as well, which is great.
And obviously, Nebraska can't take every in-state player, but it does make it more competitive for Nebraska. So Nebraska can't fall back on the fact that it is Nebraska. It's going to have to fight for these recruits.
They have to recruit those kids just like they're from Georgia or Florida or wherever.
Just like they're from anywhere else. Well, if you want to know more on this particular topic, and obviously you do because you asked, head to hailvarsity.com this evening, 6 p.m. Central. Greg will tackle more of this in the recruiting notebook, but go go ahead and just plan on the recruiting notebook Sunday through Thursday, 6 p.m. Central. He's looking and answering questions all week long. Recently had one where he brought in some comments from Sean Beckton on what he is hearing on the recruiting trail. So if you just kind of want to be kept up on a day in and day out basis of what's going on, especially right now, which all of you are asking, what do I need to know? The recruiting notebook is that spot. So, Greg, we appreciate your knowledge.
Thank you.
We will be back with more next week, so go ahead and leave questions in the comment section of this video. You should also subscribe if you haven't. Follow Greg at GregSmithHV at Hail Varsity. You can tweet those questions that way as well. Otherwise, like I said, we will be back next week, and we'll talk to you then.
Bye.